Warning! This video contains spoilers for the entirety of the plot of Wings of Fire Legends Dragonslayer. Please do not watch this video if you haven't read the new installment and you don't want spoilers for it. Hi everyone! First of all, I just wanted to say how sorry I am for all of the delays that took place in the making of this video. And I also wanted to deliver some news. I'm writing a book and part 1 is almost done. We're about 20% done writing it. And this is my chapter by chapter review for part 1 of Wings of Fire Legends Dragonslayer. So I'm planning to do one of these for each part 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 has 9 chapters which are equally distributed among the 3 main protagonists. The prologue and epilogue do not count for any of these videos, as they are not included in any parts, but I will do a video on those if you guys would like one. So, let's get started. Chapter 1, Wren. As most of us know by now, Chapter 1 is a very eventful chapter. It takes place 5,004 years after the Scorching, or 5004 AS for short. Now, in my Dragonslayer preview in-depth breakdown video, I said that this chapter was somewhat prologue-like. Now, after reading the whole book, I realized this is not completely true, because Chapter 3 actually takes place before this, at 5,000 AS or somewhere around there. One of the main things that happen in this chapter is Wren's attempted sacrifice, which introduces Camellia, her next oldest sister, Leaf, her brother, and the Dragonmancers, the 3 leaders of Talisman, who used to be treasure smugglers, but then found a talisman and pretended to be spiritual leaders so that they could control their subjects and get even richer. I'm starting to notice that richness is a very recurring theme in this book. The other notable event that happens in this chapter is Wren meeting Sky. We also see Sky recognize Kestrel in the actual Sky, which basically confirms his heritage, not that he wasn't already recognizable from the words. Chapter 2, Leaf. Chapter 2 takes place perhaps a few hours after the events of Chapter 1. It starts with Leaf getting back from a hunting trip with his uncle, which actually happened to get Leaf out of the way for his sister's sacrifice. Of course, he doesn't know that. He's told that she was eaten by dragons because she disobeyed orders, and so Leaf begins his dragon-hating life. Their parents ask if he's scared, but he responds that he's angry. There's some dialogue that's interrupted by Leaf's oldest sister, Rowan, telling Leaf about the Dragonslayer, at least a heavily modified version of what happened. She tells him that the Dragonslayer was a young man who longed to free his people. To free them, he rides out into the night, fights a battle with their queen, and returns to the village, triumphant and the richest human ever. Leaf then decides that he too wants to become the greatest Dragonslayer ever. Chapter 3 starts with a conversation between Ivy and her mother, Lark. Ivy asks if her dad is famous. Lark, of course, responds yes. Ivy asks if it was because he ruled Valor or because he did a dragon stare a long time ago. Her mom says it was the latter and corrects Ivy, Dragonslayer. Ivy asks if Uncle Stone did a dragon stare too. Lark corrects her again and says that he was just there when it happened. This is interesting to me because Stone actually did slay the dragon. Lark knows about Rose, the sister they left behind in the Sandwing stronghold. So I wonder if Stone has maybe hinted this to her, or if maybe she knew this somehow. Probably not. It's just a thing that I noticed. There are a lot of questions for the rest of the dialogue, so I won't go over those in the interest of time. Next, there's some stuff about Oasis's tail barb and how other people wouldn't sleep over at her house because of the barb, but she was always welcome at theirs. Then the book talks about how Ivy's bedtime story was always about how a brave hero slew the evil dragon queen. It talks about how Lark always saw Heath as a hero, no matter what happened. Ivy then begins to notice the lies that Valor was built on. For example, the Dragonslayer took credit for successful things that he laughed at when they were still in the planning stages. What's even weirder is that no one seemed to notice or even care, not even the people that she looked up to the most. Lastly, in this chapter, Ivy meets Daffodil and is invited into their secret club, the Truth Seekers. Chapter 4, Wren. This chapter starts with Sky refusing to eat meat because he loved animals, especially snails. Wren had been hoping Sky could cook the rabbit she killed for her, but Sky showed no sign of fire breathing. Wren, after a year, finally realized that Sky could not breathe fire, period. The book then tells us how Sky and Wren lived together, how they encountered dragons in the mud south, how they traveled Pyria searching for a more suitable home. We then learn about how the two communicate. Sky says something like, "What these words mean." Wren draws out an image of the word and asks for its meaning in dragon. Soon after this, they see the dragonets of destiny. They watch 4 small dragonets of different colors playing with each other, with another reading scrolls in a corner. Sky looked very sad, so Wren asked him what is wrong. Sky responded by pointing at the dragonets. After a hilarious failed attempt, Wren asked Sky if he would be happier with the other dragons. Sky firmly responds that no, and he would stay with Wren forever. And Wren then realizes that he wasn't sad because he was lonely, but because he saw those dragonets breathing fire when he clearly couldn't. Chapter 5. Leaf. Chapter 5 starts off with Rowan taking Leaf out to study for the Dragonmancer exams. Study, quote unquote. In reality, she begins to train Leaf to kill a dragon as revenge for Wren's death. After spending time with her, Leaf realizes Rowan was, as the book puts it, way more interesting than he'd expected, especially because of her knowledge of dragons. For example, she knew that there were 6 or 7 dragon tribes. She was right. She knew a lot about the Dragonslayer, which technically isn't really about dragons. After some time, Rowan asked Leaf if he would still hate dragons if they weren't the reason Wren had died, like if someone pushed her off a cliff and dragons found her and ate her. Rowan here is heavily hinting and even suggesting that Wren's death was intentional. I think she believed that after the parents' suspicious behavior that day, that Leaf would put it together, somewhat at least. Of course he didn't, but she doesn't show any reaction to that. So maybe she was expecting a reaction. I'm not sure. It just seems like, why would she say that if she wasn't? After some more time, he asked Rowan if the Dragonmancers were hiding something. Rowan responds with a yes, saying that Leaf should become a Dragonmancer apprentice to learn all of their secrets. After some arguing, the warning bell started ringing, signifying a dragon attack and ending their argument. All of Talisman's people hid in shelters to avoid being eaten. There was a conversation between Leaf, Rowan Grove, who's Rowan's friend, and Butterfly, the teacher's 4-year-old son. Leaf sings him a song to lift his low spirits. Later, Grove tells them about the indestructible city, and he gets some ideas and goes into another "I'ma be the best Dragonslayer" moment. Chapter 6. Ivy. This chapter starts around 5005 AS with Violet and Daffodil coming over to Ivy's house and the 3 of them starting a Truth Seeker's mission to find out where the Dragonslayer actually went on his quests. The Dragonslayer claimed he had gone to the Skywing Palace and all of the dragons cowered inside with fear. The problem with this is, other than that the dragons would have crushed him, without a thought, is that he returned far too soon for him to actually have traveled there and back. So Ivy follows her father, but is stopped by a wing watcher named Foxglove. Ivy comes up with some excuses so she can follow him, but Foxglove sees right through them. Foxglove offers to take Ivy so they can spy on the Dragonslayer together, and they become friends. Ivy also discovers that Foxglove shares her love of dragons, and then the two realize that the Dragonslayer actually went to the old village on his travels, even though he exiled people who did the same and forbade it. Suddenly, a dragon swoops down to eat those scavengers, and the Dragonslayer starts running like the wind. Ivy discovers that Foxglove is suspicious of the Dragonslayer and does not respect him as much as everyone else. But seeing a dragon was so amazing that was all Ivy thought about for a while. After this, Ivy decides that she definitely wants to be a wing watcher. Chapter 7. Wren. Chapter 7 takes place in 5005 or 5006 years after the scorching. It starts with Wren and Sky finding a hiding place for Sky while Wren goes into the indestructible city to trade one of Sky's unique pale orange scales for new clothes, food, books, and more. Sky argues that he should go with Wren, but in the end, Wren is able to convince him to stay away. By this point, Wren can be considered at least partially fluent in Dragon. She went to the refugees camped outside the indestructible city and observed for a while, even hearing that the invisible lord wanted an alliance with the Dragonslayer. While observing, she meets Undauntable, prince of the indestructible city, who becomes more and more important as the book progresses. After a long conversation, which is more like an argument than a conversation, Wren pulls out one of Sky's scales and Undauntable really wants it. He gives her a bag of silver coins, which Wren had never actually used before, which Wren uses to buy dark green pants, a green tunic, brown boots, a map, bread, a canteen for water, 5 new books, and Undauntable's silver earring, which was shaped like a dragon. Wren decides that this would be a good place to restock supplies every once in a while, and she goes back to Sky. Chapter 8. Leaf. Chapter 8 starts in 5010 AS, with Leaf being chosen as a Dragonmancer, which he really doesn't want but can't stop. Leaf has been assigned to the main Dragonmancer, Master Trout. Even Rowan thought that he should be a Dragonmancer apprentice so that she could learn all of their secrets. In this chapter, Leaf begins hearing what he thinks is what Wren's voice would have said in his mind. Leaf says that the only reason he could survive his apprenticeship was because of his one free day per week, which he used to train with Rowan to slay dragons. When the Dragonmancers are away, Leaf, Rowan, and Grove sneak into Master Trout's study. Inside, they find lots of dragon artifacts, including a dragon map of the Skywing Palace. It has things written in dragon on it, but clearly Master Trout's handwriting, adding notes that a looter would have used. This leads the group to come to the correct conclusion that the Dragonmancers were originally treasure smugglers, who stole treasure from the Skywing Palace so they could get rich. They agree that Leaf should copy the map, adding on more and more details every time the Dragonmancers are away, and he starts at the end of this chapter. Here we are, the final chapter of Wings of Fire Dragonslayer Part 1. Chapter 9, Ivy. This chapter takes place around 5010 as well, when Ivy, Violet, and Daffodil become Wing Watchers. The Truth Seekers had actually lasted 6 years, despite how the other secret clubs fell apart in a matter of months. And in this chapter, Ivy, Violet, and Daffodil all go to the Wing Watcher initiation ceremony together. At the ceremony, we learn that Stone, Ivy's uncle and the true Dragonslayer, had left Valor around 5009 or 5008. Ivy and Foxglove are still friends. After some conversation, Violet and Daffodil tell Ivy about a potential secret Wing Watcher conspiracy against the false Dragonslayer, which is somewhat true. Violet has been investigating and thinks that the Wing Watchers are planning to stage a rebellion against the leadership of Valor, which happens to be Ivy's dad. The Dragonslayer then comes to inspect the new recruits for the Wing Watchers, making some comments, and then he fades away as the chapter progresses. Ivy starts asking herself if he really should rule Valor anymore. She then asks herself if Foxglove is also against her father, which she is, and if Foxglove only liked her because she could use that excuse to spy on her father. Then, Foxglove interrupts her train of thought with a friendly warning not to express her love for dragons in front of the Wing Watcher leader, as she lost a lot of friends when the dragons burned the old village. The chapter, and the part, thus, ends with Ivy asking herself if she'd have to choose between her friends and family. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.